It was a few months ago now, but it shocked me when it happened. I was driving down to my farm in Pennsylvania, and typically it's a non-eventful 4.5-hour drive, and I had just passed through Scranton, Pennsylvania, left Interstate 84, was on Route 6, and was approaching a town called Tunkhannock, between Clark Summit and Tunkhannock. And I'm driving on Route 6, which is a 2-lane highway in that setting, and I'm noticing that there's a car in front of me that is kind of swerving around a little bit, and I thought, well, that's a little peculiar, but nonetheless, we were moving along, and then came to a Y in the road, and I kind of Y'd off to the left, and this car took a little gravel road to the right, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye something that absolutely shocked me. The car went off to the right, hit the ditch or the deep berm on the left, and rolled down a little embankment. And at this point, I'm driving this way and looking this way, and I instantly stopped. There was nobody around, and I drove back to see if people were okay. It was a young mom and a small child. They were all right, tremendously shook up, called 911, and pretty soon help arrived. But it was one of those, in all the years I have been driving, I never had an experience quite like that, where out in open country, I saw something happen right there in front of me. And the urge is instantly, well, this person could be hurt, I've got to call 911, I'll turn around, and you stop doing whatever you are doing, and you respond to the urgency that you feel in your heart at that moment in time. Now, for 10 years out of my life, I rode the train from New Haven Station to Grand Central in New York City when I worked for the Stewardship Council of the United Church of Christ. And always in or around Grand Central Terminal, there were people in need. Sometimes they were very creative. They would be playing a saxophone and there'd be a little plate on the floor, or a violin, or other times they might be just standing out on 42nd Street and kind of holding a hat in their hand. And for a while, I felt that tug in my heart. And I thought, oh, I need to do something. Because where I grew up, on a dairy farm in Pennsylvania, we didn't have anyone begging, asking for money like that. And if you were asking for money, obviously you needed it. Well, over time, my friends and colleagues said to me, you really are foolish, you know. The same people are there every day, doing the same thing every day. You know, you've got to wise up. Get a little, anyway, smarter. And eventually I became jaded, as we all do, to those who are in need. And it's very hard to distinguish between someone who may have a genuine need, standing outside on 42nd Street or any other street, and someone who is just kind of there routinely. This passage really opens up the whole issue once again. And it is an issue, a concern, a way of living, a way of being in the world that is, I think, challenging to every one of us. How often, when, how much, just what does God expect when I see someone who has an apparent need, or maybe I know has a legitimate need, how do I navigate that in my own thought process, in my own emotions, in my own feelings, and how do I respond? And we all know what it is like to check our mailboxes around Thanksgiving or Christmas, and any of us who have ever donated to a nonprofit group, the lists get out, and it seems like we have numerous requests, and ultimately we have to make some choices about the concern or the cause that we will support. If you think I'm going to give you an answer today on how to make this decision, you're wrong. But what I am going to try to do is to say that as long as your heart feels the tug, that means your empathy is still intact. Because I know a fair number of people who over time become so calloused to any kind of request that they give nothing to anyone for any purpose. Their life has some sort of a self-centered focus. And we lose the opportunity to do so much good when that happens. It's kind of a wonderful moment of unique circumstances today that we would have Jeanette Gross, our Minister of Music, and the Richardson family just back from about 5 weeks in the village of Bawa in Cameroon. And we all know that miraculous story of how a graduate student at Yale, Blaise Donji, became acquainted with Dennis, a professor at Quinnipiac University, and we began to dialogue about the needs of this third world village in Cameroon and how we began a process of providing mosquito nets and clean water and kind of a system of checking in with health care, and began to process a dream of a long-term connection with the people of Bawa and the possibility of a medical clinic. How dare we dream? But it was an amazing thing that God, and I do believe God does these things, sent this neighbor from Cameroon to study at Yale, to meet the right man, to help something unfold. And many of us feel a great joy and an excitement at the possibility of sharing in that gift of presence, in that gift of health, in that gift of education for that village. And the other thing that is unfolding today in the life of our congregation, we have a group of senior high youth, some 20, they left yesterday morning, as Margaret indicated, drove to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, did their one really fun thing last night, which was to go to Hershey Park, and now they're driving to Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania, where they will be sleeping on the floor of the local high school for the entire week, and they will be fixing homes of people in Mifflinburg, people who are disabled, perhaps elderly, who are ill and homebound, but who have, through a program, qualified for this kind of special assistance. And some 400 senior highs are arriving at Mifflinburg this midday and this afternoon. They will have their big gathering worship tonight in the high school auditorium, and tomorrow